29th, 1991.
It's been hailed as a wonder drug. It's the most widely prescribed medication for depression. But some people say there's a dark side to Prozac.
It causes a preoccupation, an obsession with death.
It has also created a new defense for murder.
I took my kid's mother away from him, and I did it right in front of him. And that's a little hard to take.
Tonight, Prozac on trial.
From ABC News, with anchors Diane Sawyer in London, Sam Donaldson in New York, Chief Correspondent Chris Wallace, Judd Rose, Jay Shadler, and Sylvia Chase. This is Prime Time.
We begin with charges against the biggest selling antidepressant in the world. 3 years ago, Prozac hit the market in a whirlwind of publicity and praise. Today, more than 3.5 million patients worldwide are treated with Prozac. And for most people, it's very effective. If you're one of them, it's important you not stop taking Prozac without consulting your doctor. But there are new concerns about the drug, allegations it can cause some people to act violently, to commit suicide or even homicide. More than 50 civil suits have been filed against Eli Lilly, the company that makes the drug. And now the so-called Prozac defense is being used in criminal trials. Sylvia Chase begins with a case in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
I couldn't believe I shot him because I can't see myself shooting nobody.
But Rebecca McStutes did shoot someone, the doctor who first gave her Prozac for depression. 5 months later, Dr. John Tapp says she came to his office for no apparent reason on a Saturday in March of 1990.
I was writing notes in my chart and felt her move closer to my back. I turned around and she shot me right there. And I said, "Rebecca, what have you done?" She says, "I ain't finished with you yet."
But the gun jammed after the first shot, and Dr. Tapp emerged from the ordeal with a single bullet wound in his neck. McStutes says she has no memory of the crime, but later insisted the Prozac made her do it.
Were you angry at Dr. Tapp?
No, no ma'am, I was not. I've never been angry at Dr. Tapp.
Are you angry at him now?
No, I have no reason to be upset at Dr. Tapp. If anything, Dr. Tapp has plenty of reason to be mad, upset at me.
It took a Bowling Green, Kentucky jury just 1 hour to convict McStutes of assault in the first degree. She's been sentenced to 10 years, but her conviction is being appealed by public defender Kelly Thompson.
She had no motive. She had no previous criminal history. She had no previous mental history. And she goes down and shoots a doctor, and she had never shot a gun in her life.
Thompson showed us a mini pharmacy found in McStutes' medicine cabinet. Although she was prescribed such mood-altering drugs as Elavil, Serax, and Valium, he believes it was the Prozac that pushed her over the edge.
You're saying that Rebecca McStutes was not responsible for her conduct because?
Because Prozac left her involuntarily intoxicated.
Steve Wilson was the prosecuting attorney.
Well, my theory of it is she wasn't on any medication. Yet Mr. Thompson found Prozac in her many prescriptions, and he said, "Here is a defense."
The so-called Prozac defense is being used in at least 20 cases involving violent criminal behavior, with almost no success until April of this year. In California, 75-year-old Mildred Johnson was charged with first-degree murder for shooting her husband, but was convicted of voluntary manslaughter and received a suspended sentence. The jury was convinced that her behavior had been influenced by Prozac. Harvard professor and psychopharmacologist Martin Teicher testified for Mrs. Johnson, even though he's skeptical of the Prozac defense.
I think the bulk of the claims is an act of desperation on the part of the lawyer, and Prozac had nothing to do with it. I think in some of the claims, Prozac simply energized patients to act in a way they may well have acted anyway. And I think in some of them, Prozac did produce a state of mania or a state of paranoia that led them to act in a way that was very uncharacteristic given all of their prior history.
Prozac is a breakthrough antidepressant used with great success since it came on the market in 1988. Unlike older remedies, Prozac was found to ease depression without causing long-term side effects like drowsiness or dry mouth or weight gain. However, a small percentage of patients on any antidepressant will not respond well to the drug. And last year, Dr. Teicher made a discovery about Prozac and suicide, which has become the centerpiece of the lawyer's case against the drug. Teicher reported that out of 172 hospital patients treated for depression with Prozac, 6 became suicidal when their doses were raised to 80 milligrams per day, the maximum recommended dose.
Even if we saw this occur in one patient, it's medically significant to point this out as a side effect. You don't have to have 6. 6 is actually a lot for a case series about a side effect.
I thank Dr. Teicher every morning. I pray for that man every morning.
Bonnie Leitch attempted suicide in 1989, just 6 weeks after she started taking Prozac. She continued taking the drug until she read about Dr. Teicher's study.
I showed this to my husband. I says, my God, this is me he wrote about. These were my symptoms, and this is what happened to me. That very day, I began to come off that drug.
To lose weight?
Though her doctor disagrees, Mrs. Leitch claims she's never suffered from depression. She thought the Prozac was a pick-me-up, but it made her manic.
I could have killed someone and would have had no remorse for it whatsoever.
You could have killed someone?
Well, I'm sure. I think if my husband would have fallen over dead, and let me tell you, I do love my husband, but at that time, if he'd have fallen over dead at my feet, I would have been angry because he was in my way.
She has organized a Prozac survivors group and received hundreds of letters from all over the world. She hears a lot of stories that sound just like her own.
I was on it first from March of '88, and 6 weeks later, the 10th of May of '88, I tried to commit suicide.
Donna says Prozac was the most powerful antidepressant she had ever taken. Within days, she says, she felt out of control. Yvonne has been treated for depression for many years, but her family had never seen anything like the reaction she had to Prozac.
I was very hostile, very aggressive, completely paranoid, just mad at the world.
Leonard Finns represents Bonnie and 50 other people who are suing Eli Lilly, claiming that Prozac is unsafe.
I say Prozac works rather well for a certain segment of the patient population. As to a smaller segment of that population, it is a nightmare. In that small segment of the population, it causes a preoccupation, an obsession with death, with violence, suicidality, homicidality.
All of the scientific evidence, all of it points to Prozac being an effective antidepressant.
Dr. Leigh Thompson is Group Vice President of Eli Lilly, the manufacturer of the drug.
There is no scientific evidence that Prozac would be the cause either of suicidal thinking or of violence.
That's not the same as saying it is not the cause.
Violence and suicide are a problem with depression. They're not a problem caused by Prozac.
So it's the depression that makes people do this. It's not the Prozac that makes people do this.
Absolutely. I mean, when I was a medical student, we were taught that patients with depression are far more likely to commit suicide, and they're more likely than ordinary people to have violent behaviors, especially impulsive violent behaviors. That goes back way before Prozac was available.
In fact, researchers have found that 2% of people on any antidepressant will develop suicidal thoughts during the course of treatment. And doctors say that Prozac is less risky because it's virtually impossible to take a lethal dose.
The amazing thing is that all the controversy about Prozac is not among scientists. It's among defense lawyers and this cult.
By cult, he means the Church of Scientology, an organization that opposes the use of drugs for mental illness. They have launched a full-scale attack on Prozac, besieging media organizations, including Prime Time, with stacks of documents. And Lilly says they are behind the headlines of both the criminal and civil trials. But those interviewed for tonight's report deny any loyalty to Scientology.
You mean, am I involved with them? No.
They contacted me, and I would just soon they not be involved.
We are totally unrelated.
They assisted me in gathering information about Prozac.
Attorney Donald Sokol used the Prozac defense in a California trial 2 months ago.
Lilly's position is that this is a complete fabrication cooked up by lawyers and what they refer to as a cult. What's your response to that?
I think Lilly is biased in favor of their product.
A jury convicted Sokol's client, Doug Sesserly, of murder in the first degree for strangling and beating his wife to death with a telephone last year.
I have no history of anything to do with anything criminal, violent, aggressive, until I met Prozac.
Sesserly called his doctor in the midst of a bitter divorce. He was prescribed Prozac over the phone, without even an office visit. Sesserly says the drug made him agitated and abusive.
Why did you kill your wife?
I honestly don't know. That's really bad, but I honestly don't know.
You were really angry at her.
I was angry at her, but that's my kid's mother. And I took my kid's mother, I'm sorry. I took my kid's mother away from him, and I did it right in front of him. And that's a little hard to take.
You know, I just can't tell you enough that people are going to say, you know, Miss Chase is being conned by this man who hated his wife, who was mad about the divorce, and wanted to kill her.
The only thing I can say is that Prozac caused me to lose all sense of logic and reason.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder.
The jury didn't buy the Prozac defense, in part because Sesserly was legally drunk on the night of the murder. Sesserly is now serving 25 years to life, although the case is on appeal. If there's a new trial, Dr. Teicher will testify that Sesserly's doctor did not see the warning signs.
What was very clear was that the kind of medical care he received was, in my impression, inadequate.
And Sesserly's lawyer, once again, will use the Prozac defense.
If it's such a terrific defense, how come it's not working?
It's not a terrific defense. It hasn't worked, but it will work as we gain more knowledge in the subject and more people come forward with their stories and are allowed to tell them.
A very important reminder. If you are taking Prozac now and have any concerns, please consult your doctor. It's crucial your doctor know exactly how you're reacting to the drug, but do not go off Prozac on your own.
Prime Time is a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.